Hello and welcome again to the Skillwork Forum. I'm Tim. As always, I'm joined with my partner here, Brett, and we gather on these podcasts and talk about trends, issues, challenges surrounding the skilled labor and the skilled labor workforce, and hopefully provide information to you that will help you with your business during these challenging times we all find ourselves in. And speaking of challenging times, today we're going to talk about something that we're all dealing with in this industry, and that is the advent of technology, robotics, automation. What's the impact of that in today's manufacturing workplace? So automation and technology are not new. It's been around for several decades now, but the acceleration, the use of technology and automation and robotics, it's never been at the pace that we're seeing it now. And the time we're in right now is just a pivotal time, really, for the adoption of what's been called smart manufacturing. So what is that smart manufacturing, Brett? What's that all about?
Yeah, so we'll go to the nerdy definition that MESA, which is the Manufacturing Enterprise Solutions Association. They define smart manufacturing as the intelligent real-time orchestration and optimization of business, physical, and digital processes within factories and across the entire value chain. So that's a really fancy way to say that in layman's term, what does that look like? Obviously, if you're in a facility today that is already moving towards smart, or what, we've done podcasts before on what's called the fourth industrial revolution. It all kind of fits into the same conversation. But it's basically manufacturing facilities where you're utilizing technology so that all of the equipment, all of the different sensors and stuff in the facility basically speak to each other.
Yeah.
And so, the goal is that you will run a more efficient facility that is more proactive than reactive from a maintenance. If you're in this space, or if you're researching and saying we got to move into this space, you're going to be familiar with systems like Wonderware, which is, I think, by Aviva, is a company that's big into this, and then Rockwell Automation, which Tim and I have gotten to spend a little bit of time with. They're moving, and Lumen. So all of those are companies that are really creating solutions that facilities, and there's others out there too. Those are just a few, but.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about what the impact of the pandemic had, and it's impacted every aspect of our culture. And definitely, it's had an accelerating impact on this advent of technology and the adoption of technology. So, looking at the landscape, there's really the pandemic, the pressures kind of affected manufacturing across three different sectors. One is supply chain disruptions. Obviously, everybody out there had huge impacts to their supply chain. So a lot of us grew up in the just-in-time manufacturing process, supply chain process, where you just waited till you need it and suppliers provided it to you. And that idea of having a surplus of suppliers that had product on hand, that was severely tested during the pandemic, and we're going to continue to see those sort of pressures applied to your supply chain. The other thing is this, I call it this Amazon customer mentality. And the fact that, it really accelerated during the pandemic because everybody sat at home, and the idea that I could look across, I could review, and I could push a button and have something delivered the next day. Consumers across the spectrum, now that they're wanting that for everything. They want it customized, personalized, and they want it delivered now. So you got to have a highly flexible system that has what actually Rockwell termed as product personalization, and you need technology to be able to do that. So that's the kind of the second challenge, and the third one is really our area of expertise, and that's staffing challenges and shortages. And we cannot depend on just hiring more workers to be able to solve these challenges because they're not there. They're simply not there. I attended this workshop, as Brett, you mentioned Rockwell Automation. They did a workshop recently on digital transformation and technology. They listed all those things: supply chain, risk mitigation. They talked about security, network security, product personalization, customizing products as they flow through your line. But they said the number one driver of all these things that is pushing the need for automation was labor and personnel related issues, and not just people, but people with the right skills. Mm-hmm. That's what's driving the need for automation more than any other thing.
No doubt about it. I mean, we are seeing it. I'm going to talk here a couple points down, of a more an actual situation. We got multiple facilities that we work in today that we're seeing this, but these trends are driving the automation at an accelerated rate. I always used to say, for those that have listened to this podcast before, know that my background was 30 years in the manufacturing space, and we always looked at automation, but it was always this wrestle between what was the ROI, and a lot of the automation was expensive, and you really, to be quite honest with you, you'd look and say, well, we can hire 5 people, and we'll just do that. And so now you've hit this one, the technology is more advanced, it can do more things, it's more adaptable into the space. A lot of these are wet facilities and some are dry, depending on what it is. And I was in the food space, so it was wet. But it's now at a point where I can't find those 5 people. And so it's really changing. So, the reality is automation today, and I think this is a good thing, can't fully replace all people. I don't know, for those old people like us that remember the Jetsons, that's
or
my
like,
vision.
Terminator, I think of that movie and these what do they call them? The robots that are like automated cyborgs or whatever.
Yeah, cyborg,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, that's a little bit friend, but we are seeing it kind of move. Automation and robotics can relieve, people, humans, of repetitive tasks, that are those, perfect example. I've a lot of facilities. We used to have a bacon. We had multiple bacon facilities. That's what we made, and I remember we put in a robotic arm, basically. I think when people think of robot, they think of this person.
They think of Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I mean, a robot in these terms is usually a robotic arm that is moving and is programmable. But we used to have, I don't know, there was probably 8 or 9, 10 people that stood around a table, and all they did was take these packages and pull them out and put them in the boxes. Well, we bought a robot that could do that, much more efficient. It was a very repetitive. It wasn't exactly an exciting job, and so it allowed us to then, put those individuals in other places. It wasn't like you eliminated. It just gave you, because the reality is every plant at that time, this is quite a few years ago now. We consistently were. Then we were 10%, 15% short on labor all the time, and now today, I talk to facilities that say, now it's significantly higher. Yeah,
you'd give anything to have only 10%.
Yeah. So there was a study released by McKinsey Global Institute back in 2017. So that's 5 years ago, basically, and they said at that time, which was a really crazy statement, and is still a little bit of a crazy statement, I think, or at least hard. I don't know if it's crazy. It's hard for me to get my head around it a little bit. They predicted that roughly 1/5 of the global workforce will be impacted by the adoption of AI, so artificial intelligence, and automation by 2030, and that robots in the workforce will replace 800 million workers across the world. Now, in 2017, I would have read that and said, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard, and that's a reach, and because we weren't anywhere close to that. Now, then a little thing, then we got into a pandemic, and things, went faster, and things changed, and we couldn't find the people. And now, I don't know about the 800 million number. Maybe that's a real number in 10 years, or less than that now, 8 years. The truth is, it's there's no doubt that it's an impact. So, facilities have to find the skills, upskill, but a lot of those repetitive jobs that they can't find people for, they're going to automate.
Yeah, and it's no longer like a luxury for the big guys, the big companies that can afford it, because as they scale and becomes more available, it even becomes more affordable for all companies. So as a matter of fact, a recent survey that was done through Mesa and Rockwell Automation kind of reported that 321 manufacturers across the country in different sectors were surveyed. 83% of those respondents believe that this smart manufacturing is crucial, key, absolutely necessary to their organization's future success. No longer an option, no longer an experiment. 83% said you have to do it. And also this technology adoption is fast tracking. I think a lot of us have been around and technology comes and it's kind of overhyped. I think a lot of times they're out ahead of their skis a little bit on the need for it and the technology. So the ideas were there, technology maybe not where it needed to be. But now those overhyped technologies are able to solve some of your critical challenges, some of which we already talked about. So another thing that I thought was compelling was this adoption of what they call smart manufacturing is accelerated by 50% year over year from 2020 through the current year. 50%. So it is accelerating at a rapid pace, and it is this fourth industrial revolution we've talked about, the Internet of Things. It is happening, and it's happening rapidly. So it's crucial to get ahead of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mentioned a minute ago, and we get the privilege of getting in a lot of facilities and getting to see a wide variety of where companies are from in this process. Have they adopted it? Are they well into it? Are they just getting there? Have they not realized yet they need to get there? But we had one of our client managers. He was just recently in a facility. This facility isn't unique. I could give this same story in multiple facilities, but this particular facility is a very impressive facility. It's about 1 million square feet under roof, which is huge. It's a bottling facility. We do a lot in all types of manufacturing, but you see a lot of automation in these bottling facilities. They run super high speeds. They tend to be probably ahead of the curve a little bit in the automation piece, so they're naturally, they have a much higher demand for higher skilled electronic control techs, that type of thing, which they come to us to help them find that. So we tend to be in some of these facilities. But this facility is a bottling facility. Most of these, this is not unusual, they're running 24/7. They'll run a 2-2-3 schedule, which is 12-hour shifts, and basically, so guys aren't working 7 days, or gals, whoever's in the facility, but the plant is running pretty much all the time. They'll shut it down maybe for a couple weeks, certain times of the year, to maybe do some type of
upgrades,
maintenance or whatever they're going to do. But 1 million square feet, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They had a total of 630 employees in the entire plant. Now, I'm going to tell you, if I've been in those facilities, you're talking about 630 employees spread over 3 shifts, or 2 shifts in their case, it'd be 2 12s. And
all the front office staff, everybody.
Everything. So you would have to look around to find somebody. I mean, you would think there's nobody in the plant, and that's the way they feel. It's like, so there's a few people monitoring in that, out of that, which again, where we land in all of this is in the skilled trade space. Out of that 630, 100 of them were the maintenance team. And so what you're seeing, obviously, is you put in all this automation, these plants have, the equipment needs to run, they become much more in need of the high-skilled technicians to keep it running, and then a handful of people, because the rest of it's pretty robotic. This plant, produced, if you can imagine, 850, bottles a minute, on just one line. Now, there's other, some of the breweries and stuff are running, even higher speeds than that.
Yeah, these were quart
Yeah,
bottles.
these are larger, yeah.
Yeah, so 850 of those per minute per line.
Yeah, which is zooming. He said, he kind of shared, he said, he spent an hour out in the facility, and he said he saw, literally, like I said before, he said he saw 5 production workers that were basically monitoring the automated equipment. And in that time, he saw as many, another 5 or 6, maintenance, workers that were working on the line.
Incredible.
So, he said that really the only thing, he was talking to the facility, he said really the only thing that they hadn't gone pretty much away from all manual was their forklift operators, and they said that the automated forklifts were on the way. And so it's now happening out of need. Because the reality is a plant like that, and before automation, would have probably had 2,000 employees. And right now, good luck.
Yeah. It's incredible, because in the ratio, I think, is a critical point. My dad and your dad grew up in the maintenance world, and my dad was doing maintenance at plants. It was probably 15 production workers, or maybe 20 to every maintainer.
Yep.
And now it's probably getting close to maybe 3 to 1, 2 to 1, something like that. I mean, production and maintenance, maybe even close to 1 to 1, some of these facilities.
Oh, yeah, probably so. Yeah. Well, and like, Tim, to your point, it's not technology. When technology initially comes out, whatever it is, whether it's a new iPhone or whatever, it's just kind of cool. And so there was a time when these facilities, they put in a robot arm or this, it was kind of cool technology, that somebody convinced somebody so they had a toy to play with, and so now it's impacted by the bottom line.
Yep.
It is now one, you got to do it, but now you're seeing as the technology is getting more and more catching up to what these facilities need. It saves time, it increases efficiency and quality. It allows resources to be diverted in other things. It is now truly a business decision. And if you want to stay competitive, you've got to move towards the automation. For us, the part that we pay a lot of attention to in order to do that, I've told this story, lots of times, in that, a CEO of a very large company, we won't mention names, of course, but who basically said they had, this was a few years ago, they had invested millions and millions of dollars in automation, and then realized, just like what Rockwell told you, is they couldn't find the people to work on the equipment to keep it running. So it was that time. I'm sure they've started to figure it out, but
They got a Rolls Royce sitting in the garage because nobody knows how to change spark plug.
Yep,
basically.
exactly. That was the deal. So
Yeah. It's interesting thinking about the automation and the visual I have of a produce production, facility. So they were taking tomatoes was the produce, and it was coming down this line, and the human eye was so fast in normal speed they were zipping by just so fast you couldn't see them. And as they were falling down, they had a couple of these robotic little hands, little flippers, that were picking out the green tomatoes from the red. So there's probably 5% of green tomatoes, and it's just, to the human eye, it was a blur.
Yep.
But these things were picking out green tomatoes and knocking them off the line.
Yeah.
In between this waterfall of tomatoes. Like, it's pretty dang impressive, to see that. But imagine how many people it would take to do that.
And it's a very repetitive motion type of job anyhow. And so, those are just some of the examples of where the technology.
So just to kind of wrap things up, there's no holding back this technology. As Brett said, it used to be like, maybe I'll get that, or it's a toy, or, we've always done it this way, that sort of thing. But its impacts are real, and they're going to vary depending on your company and your need and demand and so forth. But the reality of rapid acceleration of automation is here. No doubt about it. One impact we know, you need to decide to impact your own company. What is your risk mitigation strategy? How does it impact your throughput and your ability to grow and meet your goals, objectives? But one thing we know for sure that we specialize in is that you're going to need a higher level of skilled staff to be able to maintain, to install, troubleshoot, repair, replace this high-tech equipment. You're going to need those guys. They're hard to find. They're not readily available. They're in high demand. You're going to have to pay them well. You're going to compensate them well. You're going to treat them like what they are. They are not just a dime a dozen that you can put up an ad in a local paper and go find them. Those days are gone. They're in high demand. You're going to have to really partner with a company like ours to be able to find and get those guys that you need to keep your plant running. So the need for those guys is going to continue to rise as the automation need rises. And the other side of that equation is the pool of available talent is shrinking. We've talked about that on numerous podcasts. So it's going to become more and more of a challenge. Those guys are going to continue to be in high demand, and you need a company or yourself, partner with a number of different avenues, local training facilities, your own training, work with your HR team. But the ability to get those guys, find them, continually upskill their training to keep them ahead of the technology you need, because it's going to continue to change. So we can help you find those kind of guys. So if you find yourself with a Rolls Royce sitting in the garage, but not enough skill workers to make it run, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about it, see if we can maybe help you do that. You can hit a link here on this webcast or go to skillwork.com, reach out to one of our guys. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. If you're a skill worker, a skilled trades guide, and you're looking at this and you want to get involved in this higher level technology, you want to be with a company that is moving in that way, that provides opportunity for you to get the training and experience that you need, then reach out to us as well, because we are always looking and we're continuing to grow and add capability to get you the training necessary to get these skills to be able to advance your career and make a great living along the way. So until next time, we appreciate your time here on Skillwork Forum. God bless and have a great day.